Hi people!
And today I'm going to be doing my version of
gay.
So after so long, we have finally come back. It is time to peruse the graveyard of good writing. I have come back from the dead. Put me back. So it's been a while since we talked about Batwoman, and there's a lot more of you here, so I figured I could do a very quick summary to remind you of what's going on. Not that that's going to help really, but I decided to put these episodes in one video, about 3 of them, and the next 2 episodes in another video later down the line, because after that is the special 9th episode, the Crisis on Infinite Earth series, and I wanted to try and tackle that all in one go. So let's start here and see how we do. This is Kate Kane, cousin of Batman, who was training to become a Crow, part of the private security her dad Jacob owns, that also operates instead of the police sometimes, actually most of the time because the police in Gotham are incompetent. But she's troubled by the death of her mom and sister, something that happened when she was a kid, where Batman tried to save them and then went fuck it and gave up and fucked off and has been missing ever since. So Kate decided to go to the military, but since she was a lesbonioni, she fell in love with this bitch that I can't remember the name of, so I'm gonna call her Black Lightning. And then Kate gets kicked out because the military in this universe hates gays. So she feels betrayed when Black Lightning doesn't put herself on the line for Kate either, and they split up. Only Black Lightning goes missing when Kate returns to Gotham years later, in the present day, so she breaks into Wayne Manor and meets this manlet bodyguard named Luke, who helps her put the suit on after she beats him into submission. And then she finds out the crazy person who kidnapped Black Lightning has an underground Alice in Wonderland themed gang, and is her sister, who didn't actually die in the car crash and was instead abducted by some guy who looks like Mr. Rogers, and she went insane. She also realizes that Kate is Batwoman and is mildly upset. There's also this weapon Batman had that had some power to penetrate the Batsuit for some reason, but people also want to steal it. So Kate realizes someone stole it and she has to find out who. Then she solves some crimes and stuff and meets this guy Tommy Elliot, who is an old dumbass, and he tries to blow up the citizens in his magic elevators, and then Kate is like, no, stop, and he reveals he has a gun and she beats him up. And there's also a thing with this blonde cunt who works at the bar because every woman in the show is gay, every single one, and will constantly remind you of their gayness. Kate also took the boyfriend of the crazy bitch captive, and she's just kind of having him there, I don't know. But that's all you really need to know for now. If you needed a refresher, I hope it kind of helped, but if you really want to see the full madness, you can watch the other 3 reviews if you really hate yourself. And by the way, I know that I act like I hate this series, and I do, but it's actually kind of cool because I'm working on a novel. I really want to be a writer, as you probably heard. Small town Twin Peaks type of murder mystery stuff I got going on, and honestly looking at how bad this series is makes me feel better, and also helps me pay more attention to what I could forget while writing so I can improve as well. So I actually really do enjoy making these. God, why is redrafting a manuscript so difficult to concentrate on anyway?
This is illegal, you know.
So at one point in the previous episode, Batwoman is scared by this dummy on the floor. Also, I wasn't clear that it was a dummy when I reviewed it last episode, but it is a dummy that warns her there will be blood if she keeps putting the suit on. But in this episode, that point is completely dropped, so don't worry about it. If you're confused, just try and forget it. It's also revealed that the gun that was super powerful that could destroy the Batsuit is now in the hands of the crazy Alice villain, who is just kinda hanging out. It's weird because sometimes she seems to be everywhere, but then she disappears and just is not in the episode for some reason. It's as if she's not even in the city, as if she's suspended in time like an NPC, not a youth. Her gang always either has like 5 members or 500 members depending on the plot, and no matter how many die, they always respawn and come back. You'll hear me talk about this later, but this episode does have a lot of Schrödinger type concepts where everyone is anything they need to be depending on the context, so it changes and there's no consistency. The episode opens with this wig motherfucker descending from the window that is perfectly above the jewelry that she is attempting to steal. It kind of reminds me of that one Batwoman movie scene where she's trying to stop the jewel thieves, only this person is the thief this time. She has a special power, SFX stock explosions, that explode in front of people and must have some special time stop powers because this guy reacts really weirdly to it, as if they didn't tell him where they were going to put the explosion and he could just kind of flailed around trying to figure it out himself. But I'm just imagining things, this looks perfect. With the jewel stolen, the wig motherfucker zooms away and Rachel Maddow informs us that this is the 3rd theft this week and the guy who jumped from the explosion was nearly killed. Black Lightning is watching all of this on her laptop and is very concerned. And it's also playing on the radio in this bedroom. Whose bedroom? Well, it expands to show Kate and her blonde girlfriend person just kind of fucking. They have some conversation to show how in love they are, but remember, they only met like yesterday or something. This show is so accelerated to get everything into one season that time as a concept is just way too fast. Why are you thrusting like that?
You are gay.
Kate gets a text and she has to go because of a friend type deal thing, which is the most suspicious thing that she could have said.
My friend type thing. Girlfriend?
Blonde doesn't like it because she doesn't like Kate just disappearing, and it's definitely Kate's fault for phrasing it like that. I can't blame her. The show also doesn't treat it as though Kate is wording it in a particularly bad way, and it's just kind of frustrating. Hey, I have to leave right now because I'm meeting up with someone, but I can't tell you who it is or even commit to saying that they're my friend because I'm just saying they're my friend type thing, and I know it sounds suspicious, but it's a secret and I must leave now with no explanation. Both women look like they sleep with their makeup on, which is odd considering how the people who make this show belong to this ideology that claim to hate how women always have to look proper by modern standards and claim it's some sort of sexism thing. So why put makeup on these women? Why not show the women being normal and having bed hair and having puffy eyes and everything that happens when you sleep? You can't complain that women have to put up with such high standards and then you perpetuate them yourself because of some girl power boss bitch narrative where you cannot bear to be seen as anything other than flawless and superficial. But the reason why they're rushing everything and making Kate dumber than usual is because they're breaking up at the end of the episode, spoilers, and going to do the thing where she can't balance her social life being Kate with being a hero, so they make it complicated and she has to sacrifice her relationships and things. Well, you usually see it in a show over like the span of the season, but they're doing it in 40 minutes this time. So Kate heads out using the same bike she rides when she's Batwoman, and I'm pretty sure she goes through the same routes as well, so it's a wonder why people who frequent those places don't know who she is. But she makes a comment about hiding who she is, and about it being a gay metaphor and being a hero, and it's not obvious at all and a very, very clever double meaning.
I've been out and proud as long as I can remember. So how the hell am I supposed to wake up every morning and hide who I am?
But it doesn't actually work. If we compare the gay coming out comment to the superhero coming out comment, like the show wants us to, are they saying that she's better off not coming out for the benefit of those around her? Because she has to stay unknown as Batwoman to benefit others and continue her crime fighting and also benefit the people who are close to her. Because if people know that she's connected to those people, then the villains could kidnap or kill those people to hurt her. Is this really the connection that they want to make? I know that they're just trying to be shallow because they don't actually understand what they're saying, but it's so bad that they just end up saying the complete opposite of what they actually mean. This happened last episode as well. It's a pretty shitty message. I mean, I for one wouldn't want to put that message in my show, but it seems like they have because they didn't bother to check what they actually said. The reason Luke called is because Kate has a necklace in the Bruce Manor building thing from Bruce's mum, and there's a photographer there wanting to take a picture of it. It's also being included in a showcase of strong women in the community.
We cannot think of a better showpiece to represent strong women and pillars of their community.
Firstly, Kate doesn't do anything. She once commented on how she thinks Batwoman is appreciated more than she is, and woman strong, society bad, implying that Gotham doesn't appreciate strong women. So why is it that they really appreciate her and strong women in this scene? This is the first case of Schrodinger's bigot, because they show the characters being really aware of social issues and constantly commenting on it, and a whole lot of SJW shit. But there's also a really ignorant side of them that is ignorant about the same thing that they were just talking about. People that they're fighting against must simultaneously be the smallest, most pathetic group of people that are super ineffectual, but also be this huge monolith that they have to take down, whatever their ego needs it to be. Gee, with all this jewelry talk and break-ins, I wonder which item is going to be stolen. But anyway, Luke is there, and Kate reveals that she is seeing Blonde late. Luke starts stammering because he's like a kid who can't say the sex word on the Xbox with his parents in the room.
Okay, so while you've been that.
He also talks about the fact that the place last night was robbed and says that the place was nuked, in reference to the small bombs that were used.
She nuked the place last night. Nearly killed a security guard.
What was it, a microwave? Who uses the word nuked like that? Is that an American thing? I've never heard that before.
I'll have our security team bring the necklace to the event tomorrow.
Smart. With everything that's been happening around the city, you can never be too careful.
They say that they have the extra security in place for this necklace now, but I find it a bit strange how everyone just kind of accepted that Kate took over the building, but she also just lets anyone into the building anyway without vetting them or anything. Are you sure that you have extra security? Luke just let you in when you climbed through a window when you first showed up at this building, so I don't think so. They could have just put it in the Batcave or in the safe, but they just choose to leave it open in the fucking office that everyone comes into. So she goes down to the Batcave, and if you'll recall, she took Alice's boyfriend captive. But she did such a bad job of whatever she was doing that he's near death, so she has to take him to the bootleg hospital that the Asian stepsister is secretly running. So Kate shows up as Batwoman, and she she puts on a voice disguiser so she can't be identified. By the way, as you'll see in this series, once this is introduced, she only uses it when she's Batwoman around the people that she knows. If there's some random villain that she's never met as Kate, she'll just use her normal voice. I guess if they cross paths with her as Kate and they recognize her voice, then she's screwed. Meanwhile, Asian Mom is digging up the graves of Kate's mom and sister in broad daylight and doing some evil lady things that probably involve trying to secretly stop Batwoman in her evil corporation while her husband isn't looking. And then Alice shows up in kind of monologues. I hate every time she speaks. She says,
You know, the thing I love about bad guys is that despite ourselves, we are also tragically predictable.
As if this is a fucking Simpsons episode or something, and not one of the good ones. She's basically on the hunt for weapons of mass destruction and wants the Asian lady to go get them for her. And she also wants it by a specific time, otherwise big bad things will happen. She has some information on Asian lady and she'll let that information go if Asian lady doesn't do what she wants. The information is that when the car crash happened that killed both the mum and Alice, supposedly, they had found bones that made them think that Alice was actually dead, but it was the Asian lady planting the bones there the entire time. But this also brings up a bunch of questions for me. This villain, Alice, wants to get revenge on her dad because he stopped looking for her, and she feels like she was robbed of a relationship with Kate, her sister, because of this. So she blames it all on Jacob. But the only reason that Jacob stopped looking for her was because the Asian lady did some fucky shit with the bones and also paid the DNA and forensics people to report these bones as Alice's, and so it's all her fault. Because otherwise he never would have given up, and he has said so. He really did nothing wrong, but the show and Alice are treating him like he's a bad guy, when this mom is the real bad guy here, so why doesn't Alice just kill her and then leave everyone else alone? But back in Kate's adventures, she is still in Asian doctor's bootleg hospital. Asian proceeds to go on about her clothes because she's fucking insufferable, and then Kate asks her if she can save Alice's boyfriend. Asian doctor promises that she'll try her best, so Kate goes and stands on a building.
I once wore this jumpsuit and it was bordering on last season.
I need your help.
Don't be racist. I am a building.
Any of the stuff that happened to this boyfriend character was entirely off screen, so I guess any of the exciting stuff that might have happened was just not something that we needed to know about. But I think that they didn't include it because if you think about it, this implies that he's really fucked up, so I guess showing that on camera would have made Kate look like an even more of a terrible person, and I guess the writers wouldn't want you to see the angel Kate Kane doing stuff like that. We all know because the writing is so bad that it just makes her look like a demon anyway. If the writing was better and we got to see her doing that to him, it probably would have introduced some moral issues that the show must have worked out and made her more of an interesting person, but it just looks incompetent now. His wounds got infected in the first place because she's so careless that she didn't think about that being a thing. Alice has shown up randomly around places where she apparently couldn't get into, so I don't see why she couldn't just show up at the Batcave randomly and take her boyfriend back anyway. I guess she knows that the plot has to happen, so she just stays out of it. Also, Kate remembered the entrance to the Batcave while she was playing with Alice as a kid. She had that memory when she walked into the building in the first episode, and that was what led her to go down there and discover the suit. Since she was there with Alice, then why can't Alice have that same memory and go in there as well? And why does Bruce give his money and building to Kate Kane, his cousin, instead of some other family member that's more immediate? How does the family work in this way? Why wouldn't Bruce give it to a sibling instead of Kate, unless Jacob gave it to her or something? How are they connected? I'm so confused. This is more fucked up than the fucking Joestar bloodline. Luke, back at the Batcave, informs her that the thief is a fucking furry, but for birds, and you guessed it, this is Magpie. But as you know, I usually give these characters bootleg names because I don't consider them real versions of the characters. I'm sure you as a fan, you'd rather not have me call them those character names either because it probably kills you inside. So I'm just gonna call her Burb. So Burb is on the prowl once again for the shiny. But this time Batwoman shows up to cut the cord that she's using to hover over yet another jewel placed directly under a window for some reason. You'd think after having 3 stolen items, all having this connection of the window being in the vicinity, people would move their items out of the way. But they start fighting and bantering in that insufferable way that these shows do to make it look cool, in between making those sounds that tennis players make, all with the shittiest music in the background. Burb says,
Birds of a feather should flock together.
and then Kate says,
I'm allergic to feathers.
and that's a cool line that cool people say. You have bat magnets, where do you keep them, up your arse? Anyhow, Burb makes a dashing escape by clumsily smashing through the window, and Batwoman fails to catch her. She has a grappling hook, right? But instead she opts to throw a fucking batarang at the window, and even though it clearly hits the window, it somehow comes back to her and hits the lamp? Is this how physics works? She's pissed at the fact that she fucked up and blames her equipment because Kate Kane has no flaws, she is perfect. Everything comes from external factors instead of her. Where have I seen a reboot with a poorly thought out pandering female protagonist who is perfect and all of the men are incompetent because they need to prop her up, and whenever something goes wrong it's the world's fault and not hers? Back in the lab they argue and she says that Luke is batsplaining.
You're batsplaining.
But he has to batsplain. He has to, because he knows this stuff. What does she expect? She doesn't know how to use any of this equipment. She always asks him about it. Why is she getting angry when she's the one who asked him? If you ask someone and they explain, why do you get mad when they explain, you fucking retard? The only reason she fucked up is that Bruce had longer arms, so the boomerang was... How do you calibrate a boomerang? So Kate wouldn't have been able to throw it well anyway, so it isn't her fault, it's the equipment, it's the world's fault, not me. They end the conversation with him getting pissy because all he does is stay in his cave and he doesn't date anyone.
Cool, yeah, no, I'll be here, not dating anyone because I love to work. Love to work.
You had the choice to throw out Draco Malfoy PS1 cunt over here when she first showed up, but you didn't. So it's kind of your fault when you're in this position. Meanwhile, at the Crow headquarters, Black Lightning walks into Jacob's office and has a discussion about Alice's recent activities.
Do you think...
And CORNPOP wasn't bad.
What'd you bring me?
And she did bring him something. One of the last episodes was Alice getting arrested, and as the van was driving, it got hit by a missile and exploded. It turns out that this was actually a plan to get her to escape somehow, even though it could have easily killed her. But what they were doing was looking at where the missile came from. Now, the missile hit, so I'm pretty sure it's 100% accurate, but Black Lightning makes the statement that it was 99% accurate, and I don't know how she got that. She also claims that something that accurate could only be made from a one Hamilton Technologies. Leads me to believe that evil Asian lady looks rather suspicious. This also implies that there is something ominous going on with the company, but I also want to bring up the Crows as a whole. There's been a lot of stuff in the last 3 episodes about how they have spies and moles from the bad guys in the company. So why don't these guys automatically assume that there must be moles in other companies as well? Meanwhile, Kate meets up with the blonde girlfriend again, and the show once again tries to make it look like they've known each other for more than 2 minutes. Blonde asks what Kate even does with her time, and Kate claims that she's just taking care of the old building. So why do people think that she's a pillar of the community as a strong female when no one even knows what she does and she doesn't really do anything? But she promises the next date will have no emergencies in it and then has to run off again after getting another message about an emergency.
Get rich.
The burb has robbed once again, but it's funny because she's not actually hurting anyone. Like, her explosions are apparently invisible ink bombs, whatever that means, yet they just kind of distract people rather than kill them. Like that one guy that got almost killed, I guess that usually doesn't happen, but she seems to just care about the jewelry. Kate is just very, very focused on taking care of her. Yet, when it comes to people like Alice who have killed 10 people, Kate just lets her go. So she has really weird priorities when it comes to protection, but Burb comes crashing in while they're talking about it, and it's honestly their fault for just leaving the necklace out there without any sort of security. I hope that made them realize this. She kicks Luke down after he tries to stun her and then flies past as Kate narrates what just happened.
Nanothermites via inkjet.
Explosive ink.
It's regulated.
Meanwhile, Kate checks in with Black Lightning for information at the Crow's headquarters so that she can try and track down the fucking thing. Like, Kate doesn't work for them. Confidentiality is still in effect here, yet Black Lightning decides that that doesn't matter and just gives her the information because, hey, it's Kate, I know who Kate is, I can give Kate whatever information I want. But now that she has the information, she fucks off to go and track down the thing. But Alice is still looking for her weapons of ass destruction, but it's not going to be easy since Asian Lady apparently doesn't want to give it to her. Asian Lady sends her goons into Alice's headquarters to check the place out and see if she can thwart Alice's plan. But that doesn't work because they end up captured immediately, and Alice somehow knows exactly who they are and who sent them. She takes one of them and she cuts his finger off, but the way that she holds the knife makes it so awkward that I don't think she actually could have done anything. Kate goes to investigate the necklace's location. Luke asks her where she got the additional information from, and she says that she took a selfie with some random guard. She used it as a bargaining chip.
Do I want to know how you got him to tell you that?
Let him take a selfie.
I guess the guard really doesn't care about his job because some random thought in a Party City wig decided that she wanted to take a picture with him. Burb's base is very cold, and the room with the necklace has a bomb that is hooked up with the temperature of the room. If the temperature of the room changes from very cold, the bomb goes off. So Batwoman has to have Luke lower her body temperature using the suit technology so she can go in without setting the bomb off. I just don't really understand, since if the temperature is so precarious, then every single time that the door opens it should have gone off, yet apparently that's fine. She barges in and apparently has to hold her breath as well because of how precarious it is in there. She says that she can hold her breath for 2 minutes, so she's fine, but if she can sneak in and out so easily, why doesn't she just leave to catch her breath and then come back in? How long can she hold her breath while her body temperature is lowered as well? That just doesn't seem very possible. Luke also has this handy dandy picture of her lungs with a percentage to see if she is running out of oxygen, yet that isn't actually what affects us. It's the buildup of CO2 that's the problem, and that's why we can't breathe. So why wouldn't he just have one that counted the percentage that was rising in her lungs instead? But that doesn't matter anyway, because she sneezes and then flies out of the room with the necklace at the last minute. So she finds this USB and Luke reminds her that she needs to get some information off of it, and then she gets mad at him again. All he's trying to do is help you, you fucking bitch. Burb was actually the photographer that came into Wayne Tower, by the way. So back at the bootleg hospital, Asian doctor is pretending to be Alice because the boyfriend is so delusional and out of it that he thinks that he's talking to Alice. So he's starting to do the exposition thing conveniently. Also, the last episode had this thing about Black Lightning having to follow around the Asian all the time because of some private security thing that they were being hired for, but she's not actually doing it this episode. So I guess that she got called off of it off screen because it's not a thing anymore. But while this is happening, Kate is busy watching the people that come in and out of the showcase place because later she suspects that Burb will be planning something extra tricky to steal the jewelry. Meanwhile, at Alice's place, the goons are let go of with all of their injuries and go to Asian Lady, sending the message that they're not gonna be working with her anymore because Alice is too scary. Lady, you own a whole ass corporation. I don't understand why you can't just find another way to do it instead of panicking after you tried one thing. Oh my god. So Kate goes into the event and oh no, she has to pretend to be there for Blonde Lady for their date, but also be there as Batwoman, protecting the shiny things from the Burb at the same time. I hope this will end well. They have a really awkward romance scene and then Kate just spins around and leaves, and she again makes it worse than it could have been. Some pearls are revealed as part of the showcase, but Kate figures out there's a bomb or something on the pearls, so she tries to stop it, but it's too late. The power gets cut, a mini bomb goes off to make all of the pearls scatter to the floor. Each pearl is actually also a mini bomb, and when people step on them, the bomb goes off. The security comes in to see what's going on, and Kate starts to use her cape to keep the explosions contained. Burb is causing a distraction to get the necklace, but the case is unlocked anyway, so I guess they wanted it to be stolen. It's also right by the window, and it's not guarded. Oh no, there's a bead rolling down the staircase directly to where a little girl is standing. This couldn't have gotten anywhere. Batwoman uses a batarang to get it out of the hands of the small child without harming her or anything, or making the thing explode. It just kind of catches it somehow and then fucks off. So when it hit the window before, it ricocheted off and acted like a boomerang somehow, but then if it doesn't really hit anything, it just keeps going in a straight line and doesn't come back. So then Kate uses the grappling hook to pull the Burb down from a multi-story building across the street, and makes said Burb fall into a pond without breaking every bone in her body. So now with her caught, there's a couple questions. Burb apparently chose the worst times to actually rob stuff with max security. Why wouldn't you just wait for the security to be lax after the event? I don't fucking know. Burb was like on the 4th floor of the other building, and then she gets pulled down across the street into the concrete water fountain. I don't see how she looks fine. Not to mention, Batwoman fired a grappling hook at her, which she didn't use before on the window or anything, and I don't know how it didn't just lodge itself directly into the Burb instead of wrapping around her gently to pull her down. The crows are there as well, doing the job of the police once again. When they apprehend the Burb, they take her to Kate Kane as Kate Kane. For some reason, even though Kate is just a civilian, she doesn't have anything to do with this. I think it's because the lady came as a photographer to Wayne Building initially, but that still doesn't mean that Kate has any business here with this. They're just showing Burb to Kate as if they need Kate's approval, and it's as if just because Kate's the protagonist of the series, all of the characters know that she's protagonist and have to act around her. Also, Kate clearly just pulled her to the pool and then immediately disappeared, yet she comes back dressed normally. It must have taken like 5 seconds for you to change out of your costume while looking impeccable. At least your hair should have been a little bit disturbed. Blonde then meets up with Kate and doesn't get the hint that Kate seems to disappear whenever Batwoman shows up, but nevertheless, she says that they should break up and then she leaves. I hope she has a ride home. Dad is in his office, presumably practicing to slam his laptop over and over again, and Asian mom walks into the room and they share a very tense moment.
This is a nice surprise.
Okay, Palpatine. She came to confess what's been happening with Alice, including her coming clean about those bones and how she planted them to fake his daughter's death. She used deer bones and bribed the DNA people somehow to convince Jacob that they were human bones. I don't know if Batman had left at this point because I don't think that he would have been fooled by fucking deer bones. Another thing is that she said that she bribed the DNA analyst, but she didn't make a comment about the detectives or anyone else involved, which is odd because when you find bones, you don't just call off the investigation, you find out how the bones got there and what condition they're in and whether or not it's foul play, but they all just seem to call it off as soon as they find the bones in the first place. Since Asian mom now confessed, Alice can't blackmail her, so I guess that was the point. Only it comes at the cost of Jacob walking out on her. Batwoman comes in to check on the boyfriend, who was healed, although to reiterate on how bad she fucked up with him, if she hadn't brought him here when she did, within the hour he would have fucking died. Back at Wayne Building, Luke comes in and buffs up Kate's fucking ego as he does, but Kate announces that she needs to give back and start a real estate firm to give back to the community out of nowhere. Even though the entire episode was about how she can't be Kate and be Batwoman because Batwoman sucks up a lot of her time, so she has time to start an entire company? They turn the bat signal on in an ending monologue and she stands on a building once again to look super cool.
But our city is worth it.
Really? Is it?
My boy.
On to episode 5. Alice is in the morgue stealing skin and generally just being evil. She takes from the arms of corpses that are bleeding for some reason and puts them away before leaving. Not to worry, because Luke is on the case with the footage from the morgue. Bruce is so prolific with his surveillance cameras that he left behind that he has every location mapped where they need to investigate, and apparently the Crows and the police don't have access to any of this footage. They see Alice leaving the morgue, but Kate doesn't believe it.
She's not the skin pirate, okay? It's too sick even for her.
Kate then decides that she does need to stop Alice and gets mad at Luke because she can't find night vision equipment. Apparently Batman didn't need any, but in the following scene, her eyes look really fucky because apparently she has like night vision contact lenses or something, but it was never explained how she got them or what they even are. I suppose he just whipped them up for her before she left. She immediately tracked down Alice from the tracker that she placed in the boyfriend after he was let go. The Schrodinger's gang has like 5 people this time, but they all have guns. They don't really use them effectively and they just let her beat them up so that she can apprehend Alice. It's also confusing too because the room is actually very lit and using the night vision would be a detriment in this case. I know that they're trying to make it look like it's really dark, but they also want the audience to see, so I don't understand why they couldn't have just filmed it through the night vision lens instead. This will happen again later as well. Alice gets clapped and wakes up in this dungeon the boyfriend was in before. You know it already. Since she was caught so easily, that means that she's gonna escape later. You just know it. Alice says that she's mad that the boyfriend was injured and had to be taken to the fucking Asian and all that. When Alice murders people, she has no right to be mad at that. Kate says stealing skin from dead people is wrong, even for Alice, but Alice murders people. And then Kate says that if Alice doesn't stop now, it could end badly when Alice murders people. Then to fuck with Alice, Kate calls Jacob and says, "Yo, I'm with Alice lol," and then hangs up immediately. Hey, since you're on the line, maybe you could get her fucking apprehended? They're just driving in the car in the next scene as well, driving down the road, having a good time, probably listening to John Denver and talking about bullshit like nothing is wrong. Alice brings up that she's gonna kill everyone and she literally says, "Everyone asks what Alice is doing and not how Alice is doing."
Asking the right questions, Kate. Next, how am I gonna do it when you really need to be asking why?
Every single time we see this character, she talks about how sympathetic you should be to her because her background was abusive or something. So Alice goes into flashback mode of her horrible abuse, and this marks another trend that will only get worse as the series goes on. Alice is treated as though she went through something so horrible that it should excuse her behavior as a terrible person. Although people like Tommy Elliott are also evil and could have had a backstory filled filled with abuse and tragedy as well, but I guess the show doesn't care about him or any of the other villain guys. It's only the exceptions that are either gay and they're murdering people because they're scared because society doesn't like them being gay, or they were abused by an evil man, or something very, very specific. All of the other ones don't get the same chance. It's not even considered for other people. They really get to pick and choose here. Alice was stuck in the evil Mr. Rogers guy's house, and they show him in various scenes being evil to her. Meanwhile, Jacob is wondering why Kate called, and says that she hung up because she knows that he'll trace the call, implying that he didn't. But Black Lightning traced the call, and she knows where Kate is. He and Black Lightning are the only ones who are going to trace her. They're not bringing any backup whatsoever, and I don't know why. You know that this is going to be because they're going to be either held captive or they're going to run into some goons and there's going to be some tension because there's only 2 of them versus like 5 goons, and you don't know if they'll make it through. It's just a really retarded decision to just go by yourself though, especially as a leader of a private security firm. You should know this. Asian mom and daughter are having a scene together along the water, and Asian mom confesses that she faked Alice's death. Kate and Alice, meanwhile, are just eating at a diner. Alice has cuffs on. I guess people just think that she's kinky or something. They don't seem that bothered by it. Alice has sunglasses on, so at first I thought that they were using this as a cheap excuse for the fact that no one recognizes her, even though she's Gotham's most wanted criminal and she has her clothes and wig on. But Kate takes the glasses off of her, so that isn't an excuse either. Regardless, she continues recalling her terrible life. Alice was sitting in the living room of her captor's house, getting used to her new life with the evil man and his retarded son, but she sees something on the news about her, because the evil man just left the news on for her to see like an idiot. She gets brave and stands up to him, but he locks her in the basement, where she finds one of those pancake faces that look like those customizable characters in WWE games. The waiter comes back and Alice says, "Kate'll take that drink now," and orders something for Kate as if to say, "I know my story is so depressing that you need to take a drink when you think about how hard my life is." But Kate doesn't say anything back, so I guess she does want the drink, and it's weird because I'm pretty sure she didn't want to drink anything before. Luke in this episode is hanging out with the Asian doctor because she's having a difficult time with what her mom did, so they're just gonna get drunk and eat pizza for the entire episode. Black Lightning and Jacob are now in the car on the way to find out where Kate went, and they're casually talking about the fact that his wife is a fucking psychopath.
Catherine and I are going through a rough patch.
Copy that, sir.
Why the cringe? Child Alice finds out that the retarded son grew up isolated because of his face, and his dad said that one day someone just like Alice would come along to save him. The retarded son was waiting all this time and she's finally here, and that's why he won't help her escape, because he wants to be her friend and he wants her to stay here forever. But as Alice continues, Kate, who is listening, realizes too late that her drink was drugged. I guess the entire plan to get her into this situation banked on the fact that Kate would drink the drink that Alice ordered for her despite the fact that she didn't want one before, and then she just fucking yeets that cup. Black Lightning and Jacob are caught in a standoff right as they're about to catch up to Kate and Alice, but the henchmen conveniently stand around a propane tank and it dramatically explodes without hurting any of the people inside, and the two escape. The boyfriend says that Jacob is bad because the rich people are bad.
The city's not safe. The wealthy are safe.
And Jacob runs a private security firm, so he's helping the rich people because they pay him. Jacob punches him in the face, but he doesn't bleed because only corpses bleed in this timeline. But his statements don't make any sense as well, because the Crows are also contracted by the government, essentially, because the police aren't doing anything. So they do help both poor and rich people. Yes, they are a private security firm, but they seem to do that as extra as well as just operating as the police. Meanwhile, Asian is drunk and says something about the penthouse of lies of falsely dead children that her home has become to her.
The penthouse built on lies of falsely dead children?
And then she says that she's going through a family crisis because Kate keeps hanging out with Alice instead. Why does Asian even know about this stuff? Why does she know who Luke is? Why does she know why Kate is gone? Is it just because Kate's the protagonist? Why is she even here? Kate wakes up in some sex dungeon while Alice keeps talking about her life story. In a throwaway line, Alice mentions that the waiter was actually her friend, and the friend was the one who drugged the drink, which means that no one noticed or cared that Kate was being carried out by the goons in the diner. None of the customers gave a shit. That's terrifying. If someone was being human trafficked and they were going past that diner, they'd be fucking dead. So let me get this straight. When the goons were at the warehouse at the start of the episode, they knew that Kate would drop in to beat them up, and then Alice would get captured by Kate, and then Kate would be convinced to take Alice to that specific diner where the goons would have gotten up and gone to before the two girls got there to set up the drink, and Alice would convince Kate to drink the the drug drink. But then after prepping everything for Kate's drink, while Kate was being taken out of the diner, the goons also had to prep for when Black Lightning and Jacob would show up. So they were able to do that while Alice just went off with an unconscious person to take her to wherever this is. I guess that worked out. But if Kate had just arrested all of them like a normal superhero, none of this would have happened. I guess they know because of how stupid Kate is, this would have worked anyway. Alice then recounts her lockpicking the basement with a fucking nail. She just also waltzes out instead of waiting to see if the evil guy is stalking the house, waiting to see if she would escape. She just kind of shows up. She calls her dad to come get her, but the evil man catches her and he says that he's gonna kill everyone she loves if she says anything. Jacob and Kate show up to the house and don't call the police or anything, but the evil man's son reveals that he can mimic voices and it was him that called them the whole time. Now we know this is a lie, but Jacob and Kate should still know that this is a very suspicious thing to say. Kate finds a secret way into the other part of the house, tries to see if there's anyone on the inside, but Alice is scared so she doesn't say anything. And Kate, instead of telling Jake about what she found so they can come back after calling the police, just kind of leaves. Alice hopes that the twin telepathy is real, but it's not, so she gets left behind. In the present day, she reveals that she is mad at Kate because telepathy isn't fucking real. I'm sorry, that fucking magic isn't real. That's not my problem. Luckily, Jacob remembers this incident and where the house is all these years later, so he knows where Kate is being held. He and Black Lightning still refuse to call backup and just head there directly themselves. Even though Alice could have goons there or bodyguards and booby traps, it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, Luke and Asian are still moping, but he decides to tell her about the skin theft and how it should be connected to another person who stole skin who escaped from the Arkham Asylum a little while ago. Why is this any of her business? Kate starts lockpicking now because there's a theme in this episode, and Alice goes up to confront Jacob when he arrives. Apparently, it was all part of her plan for him to show up here, so she can kill him herself. So I guess the standoff from before was only to distract him with guns so he could remember this building and come racing here so that she can act all sad so he hugs her, so then she can stab him and start monologuing. She also banked on them not bringing any backup so that Black Lightning can go out to the basement, only to encounter the skin mask and the dude from the asylum, who is the retarded son all grown up. His name is Mouse. Kate finally freed herself and runs in just in time. She apprehends Mouse and they go up to where Alice and Jacob are, where Kate uses Mouse as a bargaining chip. She even fires at the ground to show how serious she is.
You need to decide right now what you care more about. Revenge or Mouse?
How is it revenge when Jacob didn't do anything wrong? What are you getting revenge for? So this works out and they have both Alice and Mouse basically at their mercy right there and decide to just let them go, despite them both being terrible murderers. Jacob also looked like he was near death when he got stabbed, but I guess it's all fine to just wait and fuck around for a little while. It smash cuts to Asian and Luke, and he takes the pizza, then he gives back the pizza, then she takes the pizza and walks away with the pizza, then she marries the pizza and starts a cult about the pizza. But she says that maybe Kate will actually talk to her if she murders people. Honestly, I know this is supposed to be a joke, but it's true. Kate has a lot of issues with being friends with murderers and letting murderers go and then just treating normal people like shit. Meanwhile, Kate is also moping around because she doesn't have telepathy and she blames herself for it. It was her fault. It's going to be harder to figure out how to connect with Alice now that magic isn't fucking real. But Jacob is also here now, so I guess he's fine despite being stabbed. Then Alice takes the mask off of Mouse in their hideout and they have an affectionate scene. I don't understand why he has to wear skin masks, because if she has enough money to fund her goon gang, then why doesn't he just get plastic surgery or get like a plastic mask or something? She could have blackmailed the Asian mum into doing it. I mean, they have a whole corporation based on that kind of thing. Why don't she just get a proper mask? But then they have a flashback to where Mouse is confessing his affection for her when they could have escaped together and been friends when they were free. Instead, he just decides to give Alice a book. It shows him still having it in the present day and reuniting her with it. She also gives him skin as a gift. It hasn't rotted away despite just sitting there. I guess it's special skin. So let's recap Alice's plan. She knew that there would be a tracker in her boyfriend and then she could have Kate come in and the goons would get beat up, but not beat up that much, just enough to fall over. But then she wouldn't just take them to jail. She would just leave them there while Alice convinced Kate to take her to a restaurant and have the goons wake up and go there beforehand and then take them to the house and hope that Jacob remembers where the house is so that they show up. But the goons also can't kill Black Lightning or Jacob even though they have guns and they look like they're about to, and the goons also shouldn't die in the big shootout that they had even though they could have. Jesus Christ. Okay, one more episode to go.
My boy.
This is the first scene of episode 6. Bald man go home, but evil Zat is smashing shit up, so Bald man decides to watch him for a while, looking slightly concerned, but ends up getting too close. Instead of running the way that he came, he runs towards the fence and then hangs off of it while desperately trying to escape and panicking. The puddle next to the fence makes the electricity travel up the fence and go to the bald man. He seems to be having a lot of fun in the last shot, but alas, he dies. In the Crow's headquarters, Kate is allowed to have all of this information explained to her as if she is a crow because I guess Kate gets whatever she wants. Jacob gets frustrated because she keeps being pissy at him, and he says, "How am I supposed to say I'm sorry so many times?" But he didn't do anything wrong. On the news, the bald guy's body has already been discovered, and they also know that he was murdered because conveniently the entire thing was caught on camera. Apparently he was an attorney, but he's fucking dead now, so I guess he isn't anymore. Zat throws an axe at the camera to show that he's super evil. Jacob says that they need to apprehend him before Batwoman comes in because all she does is show up the police and make the crows and the police look like they can't do shit. He's not wrong. So then it cuts to Alice putting the skin salami on Mouse, and he's suddenly completely transformed, as if the slimy skin just turned him into a different person. But he gets mad at Alice because she isn't killing people anymore, when the old one would have killed everyone in a heartbeat. But she says it's because of her sister, even though Kate never really stopped her from doing any of this stuff before. She also tells Mouse to go steal something from Asian Mom. Kate decides that she needs to vent to Luke about how Jacob hates Batwoman and it bothers her. Everyone in the show just hates Jacob. The only solution she sees is to go stop the villain before the crows so that she can show Jacob how amazing she is, even though that would just make him angrier. But Luke has a moment where he recounts the officers coming in to make him ID his father's body, and how the culprit was released a few months ago due to overcrowding in the prison. Jacob announces that they shouldn't care about jurisdiction lines because they need to go stop the killer, even though that's illegal and would make them vigilantes like Batwoman, who he hates. But they show up with the police to another altercation with the villain, and the police don't seem to mind. Batwoman is also there. They aren't prepared despite her warnings, and one of the guys gets shot. Black Lightning almost gets killed too, but she's saved.
Thanks, Kate.
Dun dun dun, she knows it's Kate. How could she have? Kate has been so careful and totally not incompetent. This is a real transition. The music just completely cuts and changes to the next scene. I actually thought that there was a problem with my computer that made it skip or something the first time I watched it, but this is just how it's edited. Kate takes Black Lightning to the bootleg hospital instead of the actual hospital, and Asian needs to know what type of bullets they are, but Kate just cuts rough because Kate knows best.
Hollow point, black hour, wide cutter.
Meanwhile, Mouse, now disguised as the business partner of Asian Mom, sneaks into her underground lab to take the weapons of mass destruction. They conveniently have no eye scanner or fingerprints or password, it's just a webcam that looks at his face. He gets in and they all luckily give him exposition. Meanwhile, Luke is telling Kate about how Gotham brought back executions since the new mayor came into power, even though that doesn't sound like something the mayor can do. But he just casually mentions that they use gas chambers. Then Kate goes on to talk to this guy who they suspect is behind today's episode's problems, only he's really fucking thirsty, and she insults him because all men on the CW are useless, horny bullshit, and Kate is so perfect that everyone wants to fuck her.
So let me buy you a drink and you can tell me all about the superhero thing.
Okay, so this place hasn't seen any action, and apparently neither has its guard.
It ends in an altercation, and Jacob shows up to actually do something. But Kate gets hit by the actual villain driving a fucking truck into the building, with the license plate covered. Even though Luke usually uses the magic suit stuff to bring her back to life in these sorts of situations, he can't actually do it this time, so she needs to go to the bootleg hospital. When they cut to a few minutes later, she has an ice pack on her, so I guess it's fine. Her suit also picked up the impression of the license plate so they can have the car, and she didn't even hit that side of the car anyway. I guess her ass was so big that it pulled the plate to her using gravity. Tells Asian to keep Black Lightning locked in the hospital while she goes off trying to find the villain and stuff. She knows that Black Lightning knows who she is. This doesn't make any sense because Black Lightning will have people looking for her if she is missing. This is what happened in the first episode. Black Lightning was missing for a couple hours and everyone was going to look for her 24/7 until she was found. It's a big deal. Why does Kate think that this is gonna work? I guess no one cares anymore? So this villain is a curious one, because he works as a guard and yet he goes after cops and prosecutors. So why does this happen? Well, it could be because they're corrupt and evil, couldn't it? In what way? Well, I think you can get, because this is the CW, so obviously it's going to be a very oversimplified case of them all being racist, because they're going to pick some vulnerable minority and say that they're being attacked by the police and completely insultingly oversimplify the issue for social points on the internet in the most shit way possible. Batwoman breaks into the suspect's home and plugs a USB that she finds into a computer. It shows a video of him saying he was being bothered because after a while everyone that showed up on his desk for the prosecution was black or brown and they were all innocent and racism bad. So the guy that they had in custody taken to jail even though he's innocent now, so she uses her hook to grab him like she grabs Bub from the last episode to get him out of the way. None of the cops seem to really care that some guy just fucking disappeared. So the problem is that this undermines every single type of commentary that they could have because it makes it very, very cheap, very superficial. There is no care being put into it whatsoever. A good show takes the issue and then turns it into something that is timeless because it shows it in a way where it's affecting something else. For example, if you want to criticize a political figure, you don't just have a sign that says political figure bad. If you want to do it in a smart way in a piece of television, you'll make a kind of caricature or something, and you'll sort of indirectly do it in a way where it criticizes the core issues and the concepts rather than just telling you good thing good, bad thing bad. It makes you think about these things for yourself. And yet, this show just decides that it's going to take an issue from the perspective of a verified Twitter check mark and decide that that is the good way to present it. Another example of this is that the last episode, they love her as a strong woman, yet they're all racist and sexist in this coming episode. They're all homophobic too in a future episode, even though they seem to all be gay. They are Schrodinger's bigots, and this means that every problem in the show is meaningless. So the cops finally realize what happened. They go to try and investigate where the guy just disappeared to. Jacob, however, gets distracted by a batarang that has a USB attached to it. This is the USB that has the evidence that the prosecutor was actually a racist. And it's a good thing that the batarang didn't, destroy the USB or anything. Man, Kate has such good aim even though she has shorter arms than Bruce. Meanwhile, Mouse mimics Kate's voice and calls Alice to get Alice to confess who Batwoman's real identity. And then he complains to her about how he is the real family. And she sucks because she keeps ignoring him to get closer to Kate, even though Kate's gonna betray her because Kate's a good guy. This seems to ignore the fact that he was one of the reasons why Alice was stuck with the psychopath in the first place, but he acts like he was doing her a favor and she believes him. Then he shows that he did steal the gun after all, even though it all happened off screen and I have no idea how he made it out of there with that thing. Whatever. The fucking webcam security probably let him go.
Talk to me, Gotham. Anyone else feeling a little bat-trade?
Jacob says that they're not going to look into the racist prosecutor because he doesn't like SJWs.
Why? Because some social justice warrior thinks he knows more about the rule of law than the cops and the lawyers who protect this city? Your mom!
Kate makes this speech about how she and him are the reason that Alice is a bad person because of the injustice that they caused, so they can't keep the injustice going on. Black Lightning then escapes, and Asian says that Black Lightning is a bad person for moving on from Kate. If you remember the big deal that I made of this in the first episode regarding toxic relationships and representation and all that kind of stuff, they broke up ages ago. Black Lightning is just trying to move on. She doesn't think that Kate meant nothing to her, it's just that she's moving on. It's not bad to move on, but the show presents it as if it is because, oh my god, Kate is still hung up on her. Kate has to just get over it. Kate is a really fucking toxic person. If Kate's thirsty for someone, she isn't just gonna get what she wants immediately. The show acts like it's okay if Kate just goes around fucking whoever she wants, controlling all of her relationships and being mad when someone wants to step away from her. She's the only one who's allowed to date someone new and then break up with them and then date someone else new. Black Lightning isn't allowed to move on at all. She's like those toxic people who feel like you're not allowed to be happy without them, so they need you to be miserable if they're not in your life anymore, and they constantly check up on what you're doing to see if you're miserable, as if the idea that you can function without them is just so alien to them because of their narcissism. They get pissed off at you when you moved on. This show treats it as if it's a healthy thing and not a flaw. Batwoman breaks into the prosecutor's place just in time to see him trying to burn the evidence that he's racist, and he offers to pay her, but she declines. She's standing behind him when he runs towards Zat, but then Batwoman is somehow behind Zat in the next shot. Jacob shows up and tries to help, but then gets triggered because Batwoman is there and they fight as well. It seems like Zat came prepared to use his axe, but since that isn't working, he also somehow rigged this room to trap everyone in it in a gas chamber. Luke says that the doors are locked, they have to burn the hydrogen cyanide out of the air with fire. Of course, Batwoman has to have a long-ass conversation with Jacob while they're dying before she does this, even though they apparently only had like a minute left. Jacob says that he hates Batwoman because the bat symbol caused Alice and his wife to die in the car crash. So I guess that's Batwoman's fault now as well. They burn the air and get out. A lot of cases are now reopened because of the corruption in the city, and Jacob has been convinced to do the investigation because SJW is good now. Kate realizes that she needs to forgive her dad after all, even though he didn't do anything wrong. Black Lightning was going to come in and announce who Kate really is to Jacob, but then she sees that they're having an emotional moment and decides not to. Meanwhile, the episode closes off with Alice and Mouse saying that they're family and they've got to stick together to do bad people things, like family really does. Wait a minute, there's just one more thing I gotta talk about. Now, I am not scientist man, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that if you burn the gas in the room, it wouldn't be burning what it should be. It's just gonna be burning the oxygen. And that's gonna result in more CO2 and the oxygen would get burned up. And then they would die anyway because they're already dead in the first place considering how long they were waiting. But you know what? Science doesn't matter when you're Kate Kane. Phew. That's the last of episode 6. Jesus Christ. Why does this keep getting worse?
Do you have the right time, old man?